This is Detroit, the city that once built the cars, the dreams, and the middle class of America. For decades, its engines roared with confidence. Detroit was the heartbeat of modern America. But as the decades passed, competition rose and Detroit's mighty engines began to fall silent. Factories closed, neighborhoods emptied, and a once rich city slipped into silence and shadow. Yet even from its ruins, Detroit never stopped dreaming, a city built on reinvention. The world was about to change, and after the war, no city would feel it more than Detroit. After World War II, Detroit became the beating heart of American industry, producing nearly 80% of the world's automobiles. By 1955, American factories produced 9 million cars a year, more than Japan, Germany, and Britain combined. The Big Three, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, became symbols of post-war American power and prosperity. Automobiles defined the American dream, symbols of freedom, status, and personal success for millions of families. Detroit's assembly lines represented unmatched efficiency. A new car rolled out every 57 seconds. The United Auto Workers Union secured fair wages and benefits, raising millions into America's middle class. By the early 1960s, Detroit stood among America's richest cities, home to engineers, designers, and visionaries. Designers embraced creativity, chrome, fins, and horsepower captured America's confidence in motion. But the roads grew crowded and the air thick with smog. The price of prosperity became clear. In the 1960s, new safety laws and emission standards forced Detroit's engineers to rethink car design. New federal emission rules demanded engines release 50% fewer pollutants by 1975, a shock to automakers. These standards made the beloved muscle cars of the 1950s and 60s suddenly obsolete. As Americans adapted to smaller cars, Japanese automakers entered the market with Toyota and Honda leading the way. Between 1970 and 1980, Japanese auto exports to America tripled to over 650,000 vehicles per year. When oil crises hit in the 1970s, Detroit's big cars became a liability while Japan's efficient vehicles thrived. Instead of adapting, Detroit doubled down on large cars and trucks, missing the shift toward fuel efficiency. In this period, foreign cars grew synonymous with quality while Detroit's reputation for reliability declined. By 1980, imported cars captured over 1/4 of the U.S. market, pressuring Detroit to reinvent itself. For the first time, Japan was seen not as a copycat but as a threat to Detroit's industrial dominance. Detroit still believed bigger was better, a confidence that would soon collapse under the weight of its own success. By 2007, Detroit's Big Three were drowning in debt, slow innovation, and plummeting sales. The Great Recession loomed as auto sales collapsed and credit markets froze. In late 2008, the CEOs of GM, Ford, and Chrysler traveled to Washington seeking a federal bailout. Days earlier, their private jet arrival had angered lawmakers and the public alike. This time, they drove to D.C. in hybrid cars to show humility and new intent. At the Senate hearing, executives admitted mistakes and begged for survival funds. Congress remained skeptical, questioning why companies worth billions deserved taxpayer aid. The first bailout vote failed, but fear of collapse grew as credit lines evaporated. President Bush approved a temporary $17 billion loan to keep GM and Chrysler alive. The old GM declared bankruptcy, its assets sold to a new government-backed company. The Hummer, Saturn, and Pontiac brands were terminated to save cash and refocus production. Chrysler merged with Italy's Fiat, forming a new global auto group in 2010. Ford survived without federal aid thanks to earlier cost-cutting and new small car development. The new GM vowed to focus on smaller, fuel-efficient vehicles and cut executive layers. The U.S. government eventually spent $80 billion rescuing the auto industry, saving millions of jobs. As factories reopened, workers returned with renewed hope but fewer benefits and smaller paychecks. Detroit's auto recovery was fragile, a lifeline tied to taxpayers and government trust. The auto bailouts became a turning point, an industry reborn but deeply scarred. By 2011, GM and Chrysler had returned to profit, but Detroit remained a shadow of its former glory. Detroit's bailout era ended with survival, not victory. The city was alive but forever changed. After the bailout, Detroit promised to build a new generation of smaller, more efficient cars. But within years, the same companies began shifting back toward SUVs and pickup trucks. The reason? SUVs delivered higher profits with only slightly higher production costs. A legal loophole from the 1970s helped. SUVs were classified as light trucks, not cars. Light trucks faced looser fuel efficiency standards, saving automakers billions in compliance costs. The SUV loophole became Detroit's new profit engine, reshaping factories to favor large vehicles again. By 2015, more than half of all U.S. vehicles sold were trucks and SUVs. Foreign automakers followed suit, building SUVs in the U.S. to avoid import taxes. The 1964 chicken tax, a 25% tariff on imported trucks, reinforced this domestic dominance. Together, these loopholes turned Detroit into the SUV capital of the world. As profits soared, innovation stalled. Detroit built bigger, not better. Dependence on trucks left the Big Three vulnerable to market shifts once again. Meanwhile, global competitors improved hybrid and electric technology, overtaking Detroit in innovation. Detroit's automakers relied on marketing muscle, not engineering breakthroughs, to sustain SUV demand. Decades of reliability issues returned. Recalls plagued Detroit's most profitable vehicles. Recalls cost automakers billions and shattered consumer trust already weakened by decades of decline. Consumers began turning toward newer brands that offered technology, transparency, and trust. By 2020, foreign and startup EV makers were rising as Detroit struggled to adapt. Despite the EV trend, the Big Three doubled down again on their most profitable SUVs and trucks. Detroit's auto future had once again been postponed. Comfort and profit had won over innovation. As the 2020s began, a new era dawned. Electric vehicles were no longer a dream but a revolution. Tesla emerged as the dominant EV maker, commanding over 60% of the US market. Founded from scratch, Tesla built its system around electric efficiency, not retrofitted gasoline designs. Rivian followed, focusing on electric trucks and SUVs for adventurous American consumers. Unlike Detroit, these startups had no unions, no legacy pensions, and no aging infrastructure. GM and Ford, however, raced to catch up, promising billions in EV investments by 2030. Ford's electric F-150 Lightning marked a bold step, blending America's best-selling truck with new technology. Yet, quality issues persisted. Recalls on engines and software bugs haunted Detroit's new EV push. In 2024, GM recalled over 600,000 vehicles due to catastrophic engine failures and fires. Chrysler, now part of Stellantis, faced backlash for layoffs and rising vehicle prices. Despite record profits, Stellantis cut jobs while paying its CEO $40 million in bonuses. Union strikes erupted as workers protested low wages and rising costs of living. American workers felt betrayed, watching corporate profits soar while factories downsized. At the same time, foreign EVs like Hyundai's and Kia's began dominating the affordable market. Japanese automakers prepared to re-enter the EV race, with Honda's Prologue leading the charge. In 2024, Toyota's RAV4, built in the US, became America's top-selling vehicle. For the first time in decades, Detroit had lost its crown in the category it once owned. The Big Three now face the greatest crossroads since the 2008 collapse: evolve or fade away. Detroit still has the talent, the history, and the grit, but its time to adapt is running out. The engines that once built America may yet power its future, if Detroit can reinvent itself again. Detroit has fallen and risen more times than any city should, yet it still keeps moving forward. Its heartbeat is not the factories or the cars, but the people who never stop building. Every bolt turned, every design drawn, carries the legacy of a century of innovation and struggle. Detroit's story is America's story: resilience, reinvention, and the courage to start again. The next chapter won't be written by the machines, it will be written by those who dared to dream again. Because Detroit is more than an industry, it's an idea. And ideas never die.